All right, folks, welcome to the Hacked Off Podcast. This is episode 13, and it is a reshoot, and we're not ashamed to admit that. But yeah, welcome to the show, fellow lockmaxers, as you are locking in and engaging in, let's just say, the best of what life has to offer, because you are working hard to be the safety net instead of actually trying to partake or use other safety nets for yourself, which is awesome. I'm your host, C.S. Joseph, and we're joined by the kahuna himself, Yuri Skarzhinsky. Thanks for doing this with me all the time, being flexible even with reshoots.
Well, it's my fault, so
Oh, okay.
of course.
Well,
But even if it wasn't my fault, we'll reshoot
just,
if we need to.
We just had this giant leaf that was in the way, and I'm just like, that's like 40% of the show. No. So we changed our position, and we're just enjoying nature with you folks today. And by the way, we want to hear from you folks. Instead of it just being us, you folks hearing from us, we want to hear from you folks. And you can do that at discord.gg/egohackers. This is an offshoot show of the Ego Hacker community. Please engage in the Ego Hacker community. Tell us what you like about us. Tell us what you hate about us. We don't give a shit. Just show up in the Hacked Off chat channel and let it fly. That's what we would like. Also, if you want to talk to Yuri and I directly, you can do this on X. You can do this via our link tree, which has all of our socials available. Links below in the description. You can do that. Or you can just send us a DM on Discord. Also, we are sponsored by the CS Joseph YouTube channel, which is my other YouTube channel, and our school community at school.com/CS Joseph, SKOOL. You want to do that because obviously, as you're watching the Hacked Off podcast, you want to find out if you are subconscious developed or unconscious developed as a man or a woman. So do that. But above all, please subscribe to the channel. We need to get above 500 so that we can monetize and start earning money. That way we can get our new microphone system. We can get everything that we want for our upcoming studio. That way we can go live and also have the opportunity to have guests on. And you folks can help us shit on weak men that we invite to the show and call them out on their degeneracy for all to see. And naturally, make sure you're going out of your way to share the podcast with other people. We're still ranked very high in Croatia and also Australia right now. We're ranking really well in Australia. So shout out to the Croatians and the Aussies who are doing that. Also, I have to give a shout out to Rob Kowalski, who just had his book, polygamybook.com, and his Man of Options book, which contains biblical arguments that support the polygynous lifestyle that I never even considered. And I thought that absolutely fascinating, especially his take on 1 Corinthians 6:16, which entirely invalidates the Genesis 2:24 argument for monogamy. It completely blows it out of the water. And I got to give a shout out to him and his work for that, which is absolutely great. So, as always, good sir, you can open us up with some comments.
Okay. We got RHBNT-M. If dating is fake, then what about platonic relationships with or between a man and a woman?
There's no such thing. This is that shoulder to cry on. Like, what did you say with that?
Shoulder to cry on is a pole to ride on. That's the mindset of these schlubs who hang around waiting for a girl to have an argument with her husband or boyfriend so they can be the shoulder to cry on in hopes that they can be the pole to ride on.
Like, it's just
that's what a male platonic
orbiter,
friend
is. And he's a cuck, and he's going to try to cuck that man, basically. Like, what's interesting is
he's a cuck in waiting, or he's like trying
a cuck in waiting. Yes. Like, that's literally what today's show is actually about. Today's show is titled Sins of the Father. I mean, Sins of the Stepfather, basically.
Also known as the step-simp.
The step-simp.
Or step-cuck,
yeah,
depending on
we're
how
not
bad,
down.
Yeah, depending on how bad they are.
We're not down for these schlubs. We're not down for these societal parasites, and we're not down for the curse that they bring upon us all. So we're going to be heavily avoiding such people. But in general, there's no such thing as a platonic relationship. The sexual agenda is always present. Like, let me give you an example. Like, you see like a much older woman and she's like obviously the grandmother of this girl who is age appropriate, and you want to ask out that girl. If you go introduce yourself to the older woman basically and ask for an introduction to the younger girl, the older woman is going to be like into you like right away, and then actually given her age and her life experience, she's actually going to be pushing the younger girl in your direction for you. She ends up becoming like a wing woman randomly, and I've seen that happen all the time. But like, it does not matter if it's a male female environment. The sexual agenda is always present, and you cannot get away from the sexual agenda. I mean, we see this all the time with like TikTok episodes about like, oh hey, can men be friends with women? They ask the women, they're like yes, and then they ask the man, and it's like no. And the occasion that you get a man who actually says yes, it's because he's a beta male SD male cuck every single time, and it's just ridiculous.
I used to think there was an exception to that, like if the woman was like way older, like oh we could be friends then, but nope, not even in that case.
Nope.
No exceptions. That might even be worse.
Yeah.
Because then you become the apex, which is what we're going to be talking about on the next
future
show.
episode. Yeah, the apex of hypergamy is extremely dangerous, and that's actually what enables this degeneracy that we're going to be exposing in today's episode. But we're going to be explaining the apex of hypergamy likely on the next episode, because it just kind of fits everything together and just shows you how subconscious developed men end up preying upon women and effectively become biblical rapists in the process, and they're taking advantage of apex of hypergamy consistently. But let me tell you this, the shoulder to cry on will never become the apex of hypergamy. So these guys are just wasting their time and attention. You gotta understand, men, like your most valuable resource is your time, is your attention, and then giving it to women just like randomly is just absolutely reprehensible.
Patrice O'Neill calls this the time hoe.
The time hoe.
Yeah, as a man you're being a hoe, but with your time.
Oh, okay.
Whereas the woman is a hoe with her sexuality, the man is a hoe with his time and attention.
Time and attention, yeah. I need to remember that, even like for like my own behavior. That's good. Like, dang. Send me a link on that sometime. I want to learn more about time hoes.
I will.
That's excellent. I didn't even know that was a thing. So yeah.
I'll post it on Discord for everyone else in the hacked off channels to see.
Yeah. So what's next? You got something else on that?
Yeah, here's a comment from an older video, but still recent. Yuri is allowed to be an overcompetitive NTJ who probably caused a lot of men in his social cartel to be uninspired. Aw. Why? Because he is a clone of my brother who uninspired me. Aw. Always in that NTJ mode, but then he blames it on SD men, then wonders why the SD men are exhausted. Aw. I think SD men need to be exhausted more often.
Yeah, that'd probably be good for them. Maybe they should join the military.
Get out of their comfort zone. I hope I exhaust them more, actually.
Yeah. Right, you can't get through your rite of passage without being exhausted, so let's do it.
If I'm exhausting you, then you're weak. Like, I should not be the one exhausting you.
Like how
If life is that easy for you that I'm exhausting, then you need more challenges in your life, apparently.
Like I exhausted Dr. Hugbox.
I exhausted him too, yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
When I gave a speech and he literally left the room, and the cited reason was, oh, that wasn't inspiring. And it's like, oh, that's just too doom and gloom for me. And I'm like, what are you, some weak loser?
He left the room after eating my food.
Yeah.
And showing up for all the nice, pleasant stuff. But the moment it got real, and it was a topic that needed to be discussed in a real way.
Yeah.
Not this Tony Robbins pep talk that they were all expecting, all these SD guys.
Tony Robbins, the chief
I
simp.
want an uplifting speech. It's like, well, the topic is not about uplifting. The topic is about what's going on and what needs to be done.
Let's talk about reality. Let's talk about hard topics. But apparently, men who haven't passed their rite of passage, they can't handle hard talk.
When Hugbox left, I thought he had like a phone call or something, like maybe his mom got diagnosed with something or is an emergency. But no, it's just because he's that weak. If I had known, I would have locked him out. He wouldn't have been allowed back in.
Yeah, like, so entirely disrespectful. And then, because he is Dr. Hugbox, he wants to rally all of the other subconscious developed cucks who are present as a way to rally them against me, even though I was just being real. And then he's like, oh, it was so uninspiring. And then the mob mentality started growing, and then they all eventually just ended up betraying us one after another.
Yeah, he's the
chief betrayer.
Chief of TMI, too.
Oh.
Like, it's so weird. Why would you mention all this stuff that I wouldn't mention if I were giving a speech? It's like, I don't know. Stop projecting your implosive bullshit bias.
He must love going to all those Tony Robbins trips over and over and over.
So anyway, the comment continues. Always in that NTJ mode, but then blames it on SD men. Blame what? I don't get what I'm blaming. Then wonders why SD men are exhausted. Maybe it's because you are exhausting. Have you ever thought about that? I just don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm exhausting. I don't care. Be exhausted. Be more exhausted.
Can you handle it or not?
Maybe the reason Yuri witnesses SD men plate spinning is because he does it first. And the SD men are just trying to be like him. So
Projection much.
yeah, like, I'm not your brother, dude.
Yeah.
Stop projecting your brother and your idea of whoever I am onto me. And then the SD men are just trying to be like him, but he's too much of a lone wolf to accept anyone into a wolf pack. We want more people in the wolf pack all the time.
Yeah, we do. We need warriors.
If you're a UD, move to Idaho.
Yeah.
Verified.
Straight up.
Not if you think you're UD. Go on school, get verified, get a session, and then come to Idaho.
Yeah,
but we don't need any more SD guys showing up trying to be we're not the safety net for you guys. So don't.
If you get a premium membership on school, you automatically get a session. Just send me a DM in school and we'll get you on the schedule. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, join the wolf pack.
Yeah, actually join the wolf pack, get involved. We're doing lots of cool stuff up here in northern Idaho, and you gentlemen are welcome. And as you build yourself up as a safety net, and we all are doing that, and we can be there for one another and actually have true male space instead of this cuckoldry everywhere we go. Bullshit.
But he's too much of a lone wolf to accept anyone into a wolf pack, so instead he creates confused plate spinners. Because in the environment Yuri and men like that create, only plate spinners can exist. Until he's finally happy in his mid-30s, once he has messed things up for those around him, so much that he can finally win the cooking competition, because everyone else gave up first due to his failed attempts on undercooking the meat.
This sounds like Devin Stack a little bit. Just like with the whole black pill perspective.
Well, how is he not uninspiring with a name like that? And his entire content is like, oh, there's no political solution. Give up, everybody. Just sit in your basement and watch propaganda analysis from the 1970s, as if that's somehow going to help you today.
No. But hey, he's the ideas guy, so it's okay.
Yeah, he is. He's the anonymous, faceless, nameless. It's not his real name. Can't be. He's not showing his face.
Yeah.
Even Rebecca Hargraves, his co-host, has more balls than he does, because she's out there. We heavily covered it. Obviously, this commenter probably only just watched one episode and probably got in 10 minutes and then had a freak out or something. Yeah, so that was a nice word vomit of projection about his brother, not me. So that's it for comments.
Cool. So now we got story time, and I love story time. So you and Hugbox had some good times. Yeah,
I uninspired him even more.
Uninspired.
Not that he was inspired anyway, because he's the guy that wants to grift off of other men actually achieving things.
You got to coast off of everyone else, man.
He even made it a post on social media. He was talking about how it's so much easier to find people who are already politically active versus trying to get new people involved. It's like, okay, way to admit that you're just a grifter. Yeah. And you want to, by the way, he only shows up to network at political things after election season, because God forbid he might actually have to do some work.
Yeah.
And people might wonder why isn't this guy doing anything? So he shows up when the coast is clear, after election season's over, and then he tries to be Mr. Networky guy with all the people that he didn't actually help during the time when it mattered. Walking around like what?
Meanwhile, you're walking around with a broken toe.
I'm walking around with a broken toe, door knocking, while he's sitting back in his Hugbox.
Yeah.
Apparently, we're not allowed in because we won't comfort him.
What's the vibes?
He needs to be inspired. Yeah.
Yeah. We got to have inspiring good vibes. We got to be like that character on Family Guy, Mr. Good Vibes, which is who he's going to turn into when he gets elderly. Let's be honest.
Yeah, your own backyard's on fire. Why do you need to be inspired to clean it up, to put it out? We're just saying, hey, there's a fire, we should put it out. And he's like, well, I don't feel inspired to do that. It's like, all right, well, your backyard's going to burn down then.
He's like, oh, you got to. You
don't need to be inspired.
Yeah, he's like, you got to
should be ready by
convince
default.
me. And it's like, we're not going to bother convincing you. You're not important enough to convince anyway. And even if you were important enough to convince, we wouldn't want to work with you because you're just Mr. Vibe Check, Mr. Not actually do any work. And you're just going to be a vampire and suck off of everyone else's work at the same time. And it's just so disgusting.
And he thinks just standing around being there is enough to take credit.
Yeah. And not only is he taking credit for your work, Not only is he doing that, and then simultaneously trying to sabotage my work, he has to go around acting like some guy who's intimidating and threatening violence in the process.
Yes, that's what happened when I confronted him, because I did call him a coward for his weakness due to not helping with any door knocking, even though he showed up for all the events. One of which was the one where he fled out my front door because he couldn't handle a minute and a half of your speech.
Apparently not.
So he couldn't handle that. He couldn't handle actually doing the work. He just wanted to be there for, I guess, the charcuterie board.
Yeah.
And that was it. So I called him a coward for that reason over text. And then he's like, oh, the irony of you calling me a coward over text is insane. I'm like, all right, well, I'll say all of this and more to you the next time I see you in person. So then I did. It was
you did, like 2 months later.
Yeah, the very next time I saw him. So he's walking through a hallway in this building. And I'm like, oh, there's Hugbox. I'll go say hi. So I go up to him, I go, hey, what's up, man? By the time I see him, we're in the parking lot. And he goes, oh, didn't you call me a coward? I'm like, yeah. And here I am saying it to your face.
Yeah.
Now what?
Now what?
And he's like, oh, well, I would do something if I weren't in front of this building. I'm like, oh, what are you going to do? And it's like a long pause, like a minute goes by. I said, what are you going to do?
His eyes were glazing over.
No, he kept looking around. He wouldn't make eye contact, by the way, of course.
What a loser.
He's like licking his lips. He's looking off in the distance. I even told him that at one point, like, stop licking your lips, stop looking off in the distance. And he wouldn't answer a yes or no question. So I'm like, answer the question, yes or no. He couldn't do any of those things. So anyway, he's basically threatening violence against me by saying like, oh, like I would do something if I weren't in front of this building. Like, what would you do? Are you threatening violence against me? What's with that? Can't handle an argument, so you're going to resort to violence because you're all docile. And then you flip to the other extreme of violence because you can't handle anything in between, which would be actual confrontation that he said I wouldn't do. Like, oh, you're not going to confront me. Like, oh, watch the next time I see you. So then he had a friend with him too. His friend kept interrupting. I told him to shut up. And Hugbox, I almost used his real name. He said, what did he say?
Oh, I'm just going to stand here or something like that. Or...
No, that was his friend.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he said it was pathetic that I was confronting him. I go, no, that's the opposite of pathetic. You said I wouldn't do it. Here I am doing it. How is that pathetic? And he goes, oh, well, you're just trying to get a rise out of me. You're just trying to provoke me. I go, no, this is just two...
That's what SD men do.
This is just two men talking. Like, you said I wouldn't do it. Here I am. How's that pathetic? He goes, I just don't want to talk to a loser. I go, how am I a loser? Like, before he was at my house eating my food, was I a loser then? He was also telling me what a charismatic, great guy I was and how much he's comparing me to you, saying like, oh, like charismatic guys like us, we're all about, not being all doom and gloom. This is back when I was harmonious too. So of course you would think that. So how did I go from this successful, charismatic guy, in your words, to a loser in the span of 2 months? He goes, oh, well, you called me a coward. So how is it that I'm a loser because you're a coward? That doesn't make any sense. And he's like, oh, this is so weird, man. This is so weird. This is so weird. I was ruining his vibes in the parking lot with his
vibes.
His friend. Yeah.
And then his friend like followed you around?
Yeah, then his friend started following me. And he was criticizing my suit. By the way, this guy shows up wearing sweats and flip-flops to a political meeting. I guess he was just grasping for straws. He didn't have anything else to as ammunition.
I guess.
But he looked like Harry Potter. So he had the center part hairdo and like the circular Harry Potter glasses. So I kept calling him Harry Potter because of course he wouldn't tell me his name. But he somehow knew my name.
Yeah.
So then he starts following me around into the government building. And by the way, I'm filming this entire thing. So I have Hugbox on video threatening me with violence multiple times in front of a building, which is very dumb to do that in. Then his friend follows me into that building, and I'm still recording. And like I would start walking, and then he would walk with me, and then I'd be like, am I in your way? He'd be like, nope. So I'd stop walking, and then he'd stop walking too. I'm like, go ahead. Don't let me block your way. He goes, oh, I feel like standing here. I'm like, okay, then I'm going in. So I start going in, then he follows me. So now we're in the building, and I say, by the way, you're being recorded, fuckface.
Yeah.
Like I had this entire interaction on video. And he goes, oh, well, okay, like I'm not doing anything. I go, you're following me, you're harassing me in a building. By the way, I gave Hugbox the courtesy. I asked him because he's like, go away, man, go away, man. I go, all right, I'll go away. Am I harassing you? Yes or no, am I harassing you? He wouldn't answer the question. So I told him, stop looking off in the distance, stop licking your lips, stop stuttering.
Yeah.
Answer the question, yes or no. He wouldn't do it. by the way.
He can't.
Because he would look weak if he
would.
did. But it would actually be the smart play to actually say yes to that, because now I have to go away for legal reasons because I don't want to be harassing anyone legally. Right?
Yeah.
So I walked away anyway, but that's when his friend started following me. So I have all that on video too. And then his friend follows me into this meeting, and then every single person that comes out of the meeting, they had a break. I'm like shaking hands with, because I helped all these people politically. They know who I am. And his friend thought he was going to embarrass me in front of all of these people. It's like, no, like I already know everyone here. And by the way, that was his first meeting, so he didn't know anyone. So he thought, oh, I'm just going to follow this guy and try to intimidate him and ruin his reputation. So it totally backfired. Because everyone was coming out, I'm shaking hands, like they're glad to see me. And I say to one of the people that walked out, I'm like, hey, by the way, this guy's following me around the building. What's with that? And immediately this guy like shrinked away into the distance, like he couldn't handle it. Getting totally called out in front of everyone, while also on video. So that's Hugbox and his friend who's part of his echo chamber.
Yeah. His apparently, Hugbox just has to go to these gatherings, identify subconscious developed men, and recruit them into his stupidity, basically. And because we have to have the good vibes, we have to have the inspiring speeches,
well, at least
so that he can charge these guys money and grift off of them further. You don't charge any money.
No, I didn't. I should have charged him money.
Yeah.
If he's just going to eat my food and then leave when the going gets tough. Not that it was tough. It was just like a speech.
It wasn't even tough. Yeah. But apparently that's just too much for him.
Yeah. Well, at least Hugbox is smarter than Harry Potter, who's dumb enough to follow me into the building after he knew I was recording the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, here's my story. Like for story time, like I've been noticing that a lot of feminist women, boss babe women who are listening to the podcast are actually like becoming followers of us and watching the show regularly. And I actually had the opportunity to talk to one of them recently. And she's working, she's doing, she's career maxing as a woman, etc. I was telling her about the technology I was building. I basically explained from top to bottom, the life phases of women and how women are statistically initiating divorce, and what subconscious developed society is actually doing to harm women, and how they have no choice but to be feminist because all the men are completely weak, because the women are basically having to take care of all these subconscious developed mama boy cucks all the time, because they expect the women to be their safety net, basically, because they're so entitled. And it happens over.
Yeah, the men are feminine,
over.
so the women masculinize themselves because they feel unsafe without the presence of actual masculinity.
Yes.
So they become their own masculinity. Yes. And then all the men wonder, like, why are women hoes? Why are they masculine? Yeah. It's because you guys were weak first, and where men lead, women follow. Yeah. So they followed them into their weakness and became masculine. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah, and this woman, she's all explosive and whatnot, but when she talks to me, she's implosive. Like when she talks to me, she implodes, and she actually feels safe enough in her brain to actually be, play with unconscious development. So every time she's like hanging out with me, her neural pathways are changing. She's actually growing in the unconscious developed direction, because she actually gets to be herself and have her own state of being, instead of having to prove herself because she was raised in isolation without any attention whatsoever, and ended up having to suffer in that way, and then has to career max instead of actually having the opportunity to have endless vacation as a wife and be a mother and actually just take care of things and be able to relax and chill max, instead of actually, having a boss telling her what to do all the time and being forced by society and by these weak men to like act this way. And which leads to ultimately the creation of single moms eventually, because the men are so weak that these women end up initiating divorce with these men, and then end up becoming by choice single moms, because all these men are just so weak and so pathetic that they can't even go for it. And you just end up feeling bad for women. You end up feeling bad for these feminist women consistently. And as we look at the comments, or the women that have reached out to me directly, thanking me for this show, thanking me for the work that we're doing in exposing all of these weak men. And one of the things that they're very thankful for, and she told me this, is that she was thankful that we're not blaming the women. She's thankful that we're not blaming feminist women on feminism. She thanked me that we're identifying that feminism is just a survival mechanism that women are basically being forced against their will to participate in. Because, if it was up to her, oh yeah, I'd love to be married with children and not have to have a job and have a man that I can trust to be my safety net and the safety net of our children and handle literally everything and every single detail, top to bottom. And then I don't even have to worry about that. And I tried to like present that to her, and she's like, yeah, that sounds like that sounds something really great, and frankly, like, my wife CK, she was a college girl, and it's what, like, the Gen Xers and the Boomers would call getting her MRS degree. Basically, she just gets married while in college, and then she doesn't have to study anymore, and that's what happened. And she doesn't have to study anymore. Now she gets to study whatever she wants, and she studies constantly. She's studying anatomy and health, and basically doing everything she can to learn about health so that she can looks max, so she gets to spend time at home looks maxing, because she's beauty maxing as a maiden archetype woman. More on that at school.com/CS Joseph, SKOOL. Purchase Season 40, Part 2, which explains Type 6 and those masculine and feminine archetypes, basically. But that is essentially what ends up becoming the result of that. And these feminist women are actually flocking to our show. They just don't, as you said, they don't know what to do with us. They don't even know how to respond, because they're like, at first they're like, oh, they're very red pill, and then they're like, oh, actually they're not. They're shitting on the red pillars. Wait a minute, this is different. And like I was telling you earlier today, no one else in the world is talking about what we talk about. No one is. No one is actually going out of the way to identify the problem, and as well as provide the solution, like the Hacked Off podcast is. So shout out to all the feminist women who are watching the show. We're doing our best to hold these weak men accountable so that you don't have to have your lives ruined, and also the lives of your children ruined, and also hoping so that you don't end up making the willful choice to become single mothers, because we really do not want that.
Yeah, and we need your help uninspiring them even more.
Yes, uninspire these men, yes.
We'll teach you how to accurately henpeck them the correct way.
Yeah, please do that. Do it more.
Based on this show.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so useful. But oftentimes, like, women just don't understand, how much influence they actually have, because women, instead of chasing influence, are oftentimes chasing power, because they feel so powerless and so vulnerable all the time. So they have to participate in feminism. They have to basically career max in order to survive, which just ruins them. And thus, as a result, society is ruined, based on that. And so, yeah, that's why I just needed to share that story with you folks, because, like, the feminist women are starting to notice. And then, oftentimes you're like, because, for example, we have some men in our life who have complained that, polygyny will never work. You'll never be able to convince a father to be able to take on their daughter in a polygynous situation. And the thing is that's entirely false. Actually, the Bible prophesies about that happening exactly. Go read Isaiah chapter 4, verse 1. That is an actual prophecy. And, when it comes to polygyny, it's actually becoming the norm all over again, because these feminist women who have been suffering as a result of their career maxing and whatnot, by the time they're realizing, oh dang, I'm not going to be able to have children anymore, they're actually having to rapidly change. And this is something that even Tomasi is not even aware of. He's not aware of this phenomenon. He thinks he's got the life phases of women pretty figured out. Yeah, sure he does. He has that figured out within the context of SD society. But eventually, SD society is going to collapse. It's going to end. And the women are going to figure it out before anyone else does. And once they figure it out, they're going to be flocking towards the UD men. And we already see these statistics supported on dating apps.
That's why there's more single men than single women by a large margin.
Exactly.
It's already happening.
And, yeah. And you had talked about, like, Andrew Wilson talking about, like, men being so aggrieved in a polygynous society because there's not enough women for the men. But my response to that is always the same. It's like, well, war happens and it thins out the herd. So because of war being a regular thing, and, like, we're basically in World War III right now. People just aren't even conscious of that yet. But we're in World War III at this point. And guess what? There's going to be a lot less men in the population as a result. And there's going to be a lot more women anyway. You know what's also funny about that? You talk about, there's people that complain about how there's way more women in church. Even Kowalski talks about this. There's way more women in church than there are men. And men are consistently leaving church. And yeah, I wonder why. You see what I'm saying? Like this is happening over and over, and it's very consistent. And a lot of people are not even aware of how this is basically become the norm. And then you look at the work of Orion Tarabon on his YouTube channel, which I believe is Psych Hacks. He talks about how basically women inadvertently are creating a polygamous society. And he uses statistics drawn from dating apps because only a very small percentage, less than 5% of men, are actually matching with all of the girls, basically, on dating apps. And those statistics are old. I'm sure it's way worse now. So these people need to like understand that big time. Yeah, so I think that's good for story time. Shall we move on? Or do you want to add a little bit more?
No, I think we're good.
I think we're good. Okay, cool. So, we've been talking a lot about single moms. And frankly, single moms are society's biggest problem and biggest burden. But it's not their fault. It's not their fault. We're not here to shit on single moms. Yet you see so many red pillars and black pillars and MGTOWs, men going their own way. These people are all basically complaining about single moms, or how you get on dating apps and you just, what was that meme you were telling me about?
Oh, I saw a meme. It was like a collage of dating profiles of women.
Yeah.
Where every single picture was like a woman with like her kid in the back seat.
Yeah.
And
okay.
all the guys were complaining that like, oh, like all my matches are either this or like morbidly obese women. Like, oh, that's all I can match with on dating apps.
Well, for one, they're subconscious developed losers, for one, so that's what they get. But also, the high amount of single moms, because single moms are willfully choosing to initiate divorce against these men, which is degenerate in of its own right, and we can discuss that. But at the end of the day, these women are often feeling like they don't even have a choice. They don't even have a choice. Single momdom is practically a foregone conclusion. It's like a prophecy on the average woman's life in the United States of America, where they could practically expect to end up becoming a single mother anyway, especially when they get to the point where they reach development phase, which is about like age 34 to age 42 for women, and then 83% of divorce is actually initiated by women, and the reason why is because they married a loser. They married a loser who never passed his rite of passage. He never actually engaged in unconscious development. Unconscious development being more closer to the alpha traits versus the subconscious developed side being more towards the beta traits. But even that is technically not true.
Yeah, these women marry a guy who is not a safety net.
No.
With the expectation that he'll become one once the child enters the picture. He's going to man up, but then he doesn't because he's subconscious developed.
Nope.
And then she divorces him.
Yeah, exactly.
Or she aborts the child.
Yeah.
Ahead of time. So that's the option she has: become a single mom.
Exactly.
Or abort the child.
Yeah, like king archetype, the subconscious developed shadow king basically has this perspective of I don't owe anybody. So even though he's having children, even though he has a woman or whatever, everything that he earns, he spends on himself. And only if they please him in a certain way will he consider actually sharing with his woman or sharing with his family. And that's just one example. The reality of the situation is that an unconscious developed male who ends up going subconscious focused and actually it passes his rite of passage, ends up becoming like a complete man, he has to take responsibility for mastering king, warrior, magician, and lover, all four archetypes, to be able to produce all sides of a woman's hypergamy, which is the alpha traits and the beta traits, all at the same time. That is what he's going to do. Is a subconscious developed male going to do that? Absolutely not. He may look the part, but he's not actually going to do the part. And in my opinion, this is where this very huge phenomenon, how common single motherhood actually is. And because of that, they are basically society's biggest problem and biggest burden, but it is not their fault. It is not woman's fault. They end up being forced to willfully choose single motherhood. And it's really sad when they end up getting blamed.
There are some women that even like choose to get like a sperm donor and become single moms by choice because they are that afraid of men, and they lack that much confidence that a man is out there who will be the actual safety net.
Yeah.
But they want to be a mother.
I believe there might actually be a woman on the Ego Hackers Discord server who actually fits that bill. Because, like, there is no trust in men. And of course, why would there be trust in men in general from women? Why would there be? Because like 80% of men are acting this way. Like 80% of men out there 4 out of 5 men are all acting this way. And it's because they're overmothered, underfathered, and whatnot. But them being overmothered, underfathered is kind of technically, not the woman's fault, because she felt like she had no choice but to become a single mom anyway, based on this situation.
And even the overmothering too. Like the only reason mothers overmother is because there's no father, or there's a weak father.
Yeah.
So
and
she feels compelled to
even in the presence of a weak, agreed. Good point. Because like even the presence of a weak father, who's usually a stepdad, he's not really going to be invested in the children that are not even his anyway, and she's going to have to further man up. And it's just so ridiculous.
It's bad enough that women have to masculinize themselves when they're single just to get by in society. They have to do it even in the marriage because the father or husband is that weak.
I would say they have to do it 4x in the marriage, because basically the woman has to take on the responsibility, the male burden of responsibility of bringing king, warrior, magician, lover basically within the confines of her actual marriage.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Women are stepping up to the plate for the male burden of responsibility more than the men are.
Yes, it's disgusting. And they have to.
Yeah. Or they think that they have to. And they kind of do.
So it's
because they don't have a lot of options.
Agreed. And it's not surprising. It's not surprising at all that these women end up cheating. It's not surprising they end up initiating divorce. It's not surprising that they try to get with the unconscious developed men, even though unconscious developed men statistically don't go for those mothers anyway. And sometimes what they end up having to do is actually conceal the fact that they have children in their attempt to try to get with the unconscious developed men. And then all of a sudden they get bait and switched, and then the unconscious developed men find out, and then they end up breaking up with them because it's like, hey, I was sold a false bill of goods. But the women feel like they have no choice but to act that way anyway, because they're trying to get the highest quality man that they can get with their hypergamy, not just for their own sake, but also the sake of their children. So it's like, it just continues to be this self-perpetuating downward spiral with the degeneracy of society. And at the end, women consistently are the victims over and over and over. And what is so sad to me is how these fucking red pill grifters, like Andrew Wilson, we'll be discussing him a lot in today's show, are actually pointing the finger at the women, when he himself is literally the epitome of the apex of degeneracy within society, especially since this guy claims Christ. And like, in my opinion, there's nothing really Christian about this guy. There's nothing Christian about him at all. Like, not at all. Yet he claims to be like this Orthodox Christian or whatever. And I'm just like, no, you're full of shit. Like, and he continues to perpetuate the problem, and then women end up being victimized because of these men who are blaming the effect without realizing that they themselves are the cause of the problem. It just bothers the shit out of me.
It's like Tomasi saying the red pill is just a reaction to feminism.
Yeah.
As if feminism's the cause.
Yeah.
It's like, no, feminism is the effect, and the cause is weak men like you.
Yeah.
So then he creates this solution, which is not really a solution for men, the red pill, which is how to cope with the problem that men like him created in the first place.
It's just a cope. It doesn't actually solve any problems. It's a cope that makes the problems even worse. And so because of people like Tomasi, within society, subconscious developed men, especially the red pillars, are just enabling single motherhood, if not actually forcing single motherhood onto society. They're so wicked, they're so degenerate, they continue to do this. And of course, why would they even have to step up to play anyway? They have free porn, they have safety nets from society that they're grifting off of the Yuri men in the past who've created those safety nets and made those safety nets for women, but they're trying to take advantage of those safety nets for themselves, which is bullshit. Here's another thing that's really terrible about them. They're so needy. They have this scarcity mindset, which in my opinion is what I call pussy maxing. They're just constantly pussy maxing. It's the stink of death. It is their entire life is centered around their ability to get girls, their ability to get easy, quick sexual access. And this is ultimately why they end up going after single moms, because single moms are also the most vulnerable and the weakest people group within society itself right now in the West.
And they're low-hanging fruit.
You just
had a video about that.
Yeah,
on the C.S. Joseph YouTube channel.
They're the low-hanging fruit. And that also includes, the fat women with tattoos, but usually the fat women with tattoos end up having, they're single moms anyway. And then oftentimes, like, I get so disgusted because I'm like, oh my God, who put a baby in that? And why did you? Like, holy shit. And like men need to be held accountable. They need to be held accountable for that because clearly they didn't care. At least that woman decided to not abort that child. At least that happened, you know, so good on her. But women have it extremely difficult right now. They have it extremely hard. And oftentimes, like, people, men and women in this society are completely oblivious to this effect. And single motherhood is just literally a direct result of subconscious developed male failure. Their consistent failure, their consistent entitlement, their consistent grifting, their consistent, as you would say, coasting off of everyone else. Because these men have no choice. Oh wait, they have every choice. But they consistently, like women, because they're feminine, show up at the finish line. Like, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah, it's like Floodsport trying to go after a rich woman.
Oh yeah, Floodsport and the rich woman. Yeah, because he wants to, you know, be the pool boy. He wants to basically get the paycheck and then pay his brother. So he wants to use, you know, he wants to rob Peter to pay Paul. Except in this case, it's what, Patricia, to pay his brother. And it's just like, what the hell?
He is so afraid of the male burden of performance that he wants it in the career woman.
He wants to be easy.
He wants her to have the male burden of performance while he coasts off of her safety net.
Thank God for AI taking away these easy white collar jobs, and these men might actually have to like develop a trade for once, you know. Like, I'm even thinking about that. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm coming up on 40 here, and you know, what if AI completely eliminates everything that I do? Okay, well, guess what? I have some skills here, and here, and I need to develop even more skills. I'm constantly thinking about how I need to make sure that I have as much skill as possible, so that I can be as relevant as possible, so that I can always be the safety net for my family, for my wives and my children, all the time.
The solution to
constantly
AI is still King, Warrior, Magician, Lover.
Exactly.
Warrior Max.
Warrior Max.
If you're afraid about AI, just lean into Warrior.
Yeah.
And as a man, you should be doing that anyway, because your job is to be a generalist, not a specialist anyway.
Yeah, women are supposed to be specializing. You let them specialize. But then they're forced to generalize because they're forced to, you know, participate in career maxing when they shouldn't even do that. They're forced to act like men because the women are like, oh shit, I have no choice but to step up to the plate because I'm more vulnerable anyway. And they are consistently are doing that. And it just, and these men are using that as a way to feel entitled to these women's bodies and take advantage of these women and plate spin them and end up having consistent sexual relations without commitment. And it is reprehensible, and it is degenerate. These men are degenerate, and they literally contribute nothing. And as you had pointed out astutely, they're more expensive to manage than even hire. So then they're the guys, when AI ends up like putting pressure on these white-collar jobs, they're all the people that are going to get cut first, basically, because they're not actually being productive. They're the guy that tries to do as little work as possible when they actually are on the job. Like for example, some white collar jobs, you know, there's like a statistic years back that said like on average, men are doing 2 to 4 hours of actual productivity during an entire work week in these white collar jobs.
And then they'll still complain about that.
Yeah, they'll still complain. They'll demand their safety nets. They'll demand their insurance. They'll demand their 401k. What have they actually earned? They haven't earned anything.
Yeah, and if you're a man and you want to guarantee that your woman feels unsafe, start complaining about your male burden of performance around her.
Oh my God.
See how well that goes for you.
I was literally just thinking about that. Like earlier today, because like one of the worst things that you could actually do as a man is thank a woman for doing the tasks or the behaviors that are attached to King, Warrior, Magician, Lover anyway. Because that is like the fastest way to make them feel unsafe. That is the fastest way for them to lose attraction for their men.
Yeah, and then cue the development phase, and then they wonder why their entire marriage blew up in their face.
Exactly. The men are responsible for the development phase. The men are responsible for 83% of divorce is initiated by women. And I regret that I've actually shot on women for that statistic in the past, but it's actually completely false. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. And that's the reality.
It doesn't mean we condone that. It just means we understand the real reason why it's happening. And the root cause of that is the men.
Yeah.
And you're not going to fix the problem by complaining about the effect of the cause.
Yeah. But it gets even worse. These are the men who are complaining about how good women have it.
Yeah. Let me bring that up.
Yeah.
Carry on while I find it.
Yeah.
Because
like for example, like when I hear about subconscious developed men complaining about how good women have it, like my response is like, okay, well, what about the single mothers? Like, have you even like paid attention to that phenomenon? Have you even paid attention to how you are actually the cause of single motherdom? And then also all those children end up having their lives ruined, especially their relationships that they have with their fathers. It's entirely, it's stupidity. That's what it is. So.
Yeah, so here's a tweet from a guy named Spectre on X. He says, go on Hinge or any dating app and you'll see that most of the girls you meet have their own apartments, good jobs, and are living life on easy mode. Now, as a male, you'll notice most of your friends are checked out, living with their parents, and struggling to get a job. A very interesting part of our collapsing society.
And they're blaming the women.
This guy's a looks
doing it
maxer.
because they don't have a choice. Because they're invested. They're solipsistic. They're invested in their own personal survival. They know they're vulnerable. They don't have a choice. Those men who are living in their mother's basements do have a choice. And frankly, their parents need to kick them out onto the street. I didn't become a man until I actually dealt with homelessness myself. Yeah. Like, I deserved that homeless. I was living out of my car. I absolutely deserved that. And I didn't actually... That was like my rite of... That was like a continuation of my rite of passage.
And now you live out of your car temporarily just for fun.
Yes, I do. I do live out of my car temporarily.
It's not that bad.
I'm actually doing it tonight. I'm living out of my car temporarily for fun tonight.
Yeah, it's like camping.
It is. Yeah, and I can make it super comfortable. I have this really nice pad. It's so good. I got my fridge. I love living out of my car temporarily. It's really fun. And I've done it with family members, and they all enjoy that. But hey,
But that's our greatest fear, these SD guys.
Yeah.
Oh, what if I have to be homeless? What if my safety net's gone?
Yeah, what if my safety net's gone? Yeah, it's just it's so terrible. Yeah. And for them to complain about it, the lack of consideration for single mothers is just reprehensible.
Yeah, this post was disgusting. So my response was, if you and your friends can't outcompete the average woman, then maybe the issue is your lack of masculinity. Envying women for living life on easy mode as a man is pathetic. And then you wonder why you're not attractive. It's not just your looks, stupid. And every single like I got on that post, I got over 250 of them, were like feminist Twitter accounts.
They're acting like women. Subconscious developed men are acting like women. They're living in their mother's basement. Who should be living in their mother's basement? Their daughter.
Yeah, so then
to be fair.
Yeah, so then a different guy responded to me. He goes, crazy how people can make observations and guys like you come up with some personal insults, acting like these problems aren't observable.
Yeah,
And I said, I just don't care about your excuses. It's that simple.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it agreed.
And then another guy says, it's rather difficult to outcompete when the state and institutions cripple you at every turn. And I said, then work harder. There's a reason people from third world countries come to the West and outcompete all of these spoiled weaklings. No excuses.
And the 4% of men, top 4% of men who actually can afford for their wife to not actually have to work, those men, okay, those men have figured it out. Those men have overcome those societal challenges. So why can't they overcome those societal challenges? What the hell?
Yeah. Another guy goes, why are you pretending like we have a level playing field instead of one tilted towards female success? And I said, no, I'm saying it's your responsibility as a man to overcome an uneven playing field regardless. Pay attention.
Yeah.
I don't 100%. Care how uneven it is.
Yeah.
Rise to the occasion. It's a challenge. You're a man. Get over the uneven playing field. Oh no, there's no diversity programs for me. Who cares? Succeed anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Male burden of performance. Stop shirking it.
Yes.
I don't care if there's programs for women and not for you. Get a job. Get 2 jobs. Get 3 jobs.
Yeah.
I don't care.
3 jobs. Like, do it. Like, I had a time in my life where I had 3 jobs at the same time. And here's another way that they act like women. There's this thing called mate choice copying, right? And what mate choice copying is that, like, women see other women who are already in established relationships with men, and they see that, and then they end up becoming attracted to that man at the same time. It's called pre-selection. Well, here's the thing, though. SD men, they want to wait at the finish line just like women do, and guess what? They're doing that all the time, consistently. They're so degenerate, they keep acting that way. They're doing mate choice copy too, because what do SD men do? They end up, because as you said, the shoulder to cry on, right, is the pole to rely on, right? So basically, in that situation, they're looking at the men who are already in a relationship with a woman, and they're waiting for their turn to get with that woman. One of the worst things I've ever heard in all of Red Pill was that classic line that they all use to justify their degenerate behavior, which is, well, she doesn't belong to you. It's not your turn, it's just your turn right now, basically. And it's like, no, that's not true at all. That is completely and utterly
Yeah, she
false.
belongs to her father and then her husband, but definitely not a plate spinner.
Yes. So, as a result, I have no choice but to conclude the following. Men who marry single mothers are the worst people in society. They are the most degenerate. They are disgusting. And their behavior is consistently disgusting.
And they make things worse for all men everywhere.
Yeah.
Because what they do is, by providing a safe landing for a woman to divorce her husband
Yeah.
and get with them, the shoulder to cry on,
Yeah. They're
going after the
gross.
low-hanging fruit,
They're absolutely gross.
they're creating a friendly environment for women to leave the father of their children because they know that there's going to be some simp out there
Yeah.
to pick up the slack.
Exactly.
Or she's hoping for that.
Yeah.
If that didn't exist, women would be incentivized to stick with the father of their children, and it would create less fatherlessness. But these
Yes.
men are creating more fatherlessness by creating another option for a woman to have
Exactly.
by leaving the
And
father of
they're
her
taking
children.
advantage of a woman's hypergamy.
And they're only doing it to spin her plate. They don't actually
Yeah.
want to be a father. They don't actually
No.
want to be the safety net. They want her to
No.
be the safety net.
They're pussy maxing.
And they want
pussy.
to wait at the finish line.
Yeah, they're waiting at the finish line. Oh, you have a pre-established woman who's in a relationship and whatnot, and then I'm going to look like I'm, with my machismo, I'm going to look like I'm alpha, and then I'm going to get in on your family, get in on your relationship, and then I'm going to take her from you because I'm just going to be the shoulder to cry on, or as an example. Often, though, that doesn't even work, and it's a complete failure, but that's what they do. And what's even more disgusting is that these men are honored by SD society. They are honored by SD men and women because SD women have been completely brainwashed by feminism because they don't have a choice to participate in it anyway. So all their neural pathways are extremely invested in that, which is pretty disgusting in of its own right, and that's a huge problem. But they are honored consistently by SD men and SD women, and also churches alike. And in reality, they're just nothing but step-simps. That's all they are.
Yeah, let's not call them fathers if they're not actually fathers.
They're not. They're not. You said something about siblings, right?
Yeah, the step simp is not in the relationship to be the father of that child.
No.
He's there to, if anything, he acts like the sibling of the child.
Yeah.
Because all they do, they don't actually parent the children. It's not theirs anyway.
They just play video games.
They just play video games with them and try to be the cool dad.
The cool dad.
Or the friend instead of the actual
friend,
father, which they would
yeah.
never be anyway, because the real father is still out there somewhere.
Yeah. Like, for example, when male lions get with lionesses who already have children, those male lions end up killing those children. They end up killing them. And that is still wired into the male approach anyway, in that they just don't care. They're just not invested in another man's children. And this happens over and over and over. So as a result, these step-simps are nothing more than solipsistic parasites. They also have this thing where they oftentimes marry older women. And reality is that they're engaging in this degenerate form of hypergamy themselves because they're being hypergamous in terms of their safety nets. They want to monkey branch between one safety net to another. And they see another man's family, another man's relationship investment, relationship equity, family investment, as like their golden ticket.
Yeah, and then they can more easily monkey branch from single mom to single mom.
Yes.
Because they're not going to have any guilt about abandoning
Because
a child
they're
that's
so-
not theirs to begin with.
Yes, and these single mothers are so vulnerable and end up falling for it, mostly because their attention is split, because they have to have their attention on their children because they are like having to solely take care of their children while simultaneously are not able to really suss out a guy that is just there to use her as yet another safety net. So that she end up going from guy to guy to guy and never actually having an improvement in her life because the problem is still there.
Yeah, and then
because
she keeps
she's potentially gone from one loser to another, basically.
And yeah, because she's so heavily invested in her male burden of performance, even though
Yes.
she's female,
Yes.
she becomes judgment-oriented, not perception-oriented, so she's not picking up on these things. And then she
Yes.
keeps making the same mistake over and over and over again
Yes.
with all these step-simps.
And then her body count increases, her value gets even further reduced. She is basically entirely ruined, and then she can't even be a good example as a mother to her daughters specifically.
And
she
these,
can't even do
these
that.
step-simps, they're there to prey on the single mom,
Yes.
and even prey on her children. Because what
Yes.
percent of abuse happens at the hands of the so-called stepfather?
Yes. What's even more interesting is when you actually look at monogamy, right? and how monogamy basically represents, as you stated, the biggest safety net, right? Because it's like, it's beta cuck security, and
Yeah, it's the bottom 80% of men feeling entitled to reproduce.
Yeah.
Even though hypergamy and everyone's instincts naturally lean towards polygyny anyway.
Yeah. And then you have someone like Andrew Wilson being like, oh, well, if polygyny was normal, you'd have all these aggrieved men. But I mean, like, look.
We already have them right now.
Yes, exactly. And not only that, those aggrieved men, based on like how wars were consistently fought over time, probably wouldn't even be alive anyway.
And I don't care how aggrieved they are anyway. If they haven't become the top 4%, then I don't care. Like, these are the same guys complaining about how hard they have it and how easy women have it.
Yeah.
So you don't get the right to complain about being aggrieved while you're the bottom 80% and you're choosing to stay there.
As a result, this causes something terrible where these subconscious developed men, they often complain about how bad family law is. They often complain about how bad society is. They often complain about how it's very supportive and very biased towards women, etc. They often complain about this. But the reality of the situation is that these subconscious developed men are the ones who actually use family law to their own actual advantage.
Yeah, because the father of that child that they're the step-simp for is still paying that woman money in the form of alimony, child support.
Yes.
And then they're just living in her house playing video games with some other man's kid.
And then also lost 50% of his assets in the divorce anyway. And he basically has a sugar daddy who is his slave at this point that family law gave him. So like, there's like that meme that I posted in the Ego Hackers Discord server, talking about how there's a woman who commits adultery and like everyone's up in arms. They got their torches, they got their pitchforks, they got their swords, and they're angry at the adulteress and the adulterer basically in this situation. Versus the modern society comparison, which shows the guy in front of the judge, and then she gets the children, she gets 50% of the assets, she gets the money basically, and then there is the step simp right there ready to marry her and grift off of all of that relationship equity, off of all of that money, off of that safety net. And he monkey branched between safety nets, and he finally got that single mom, he finally got everything out of that situation, and then it is benefiting him, and he doesn't even actually have to move forward with his male burden of performance anyway. And then she ends up marrying this guy, and he's not ever going to improve because he's enjoying the benefits of the work of another man in the process. How degenerate can you get? And this is literally why I'm making the argument that men who marry single moms are the worst literal people in society. They are the parasites.
It's kind of gay too, because they're still using another man as the safety net just from afar. Like he's still paying for everything in the household, just remotely, because he's not married to the woman anymore, or maybe he still is technically, but the woman left.
Yeah.
So these men, these step simps, they're living off the safety net still of another man.
Yep. Oh God, it just.
So not only do they want the woman, the step mom, to be the safety net, they want her actual man,
baby daddy.
They want him to be the safety net too.
Yeah. And
it's gross.
And they're like safety net maxing basically, and it is absolutely disgusting. You know what's even worse? Then they justify their hatred of beauty men, the men who are willing to confront them, the men that don't give them the vibes, the men that are uninspiring. They justify it, and they actually imagine themselves the savior of women.
Yeah,
they
like Andrew Wilson.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing a good thing by marrying a woman with 3 baby daddies, married twice before.
It's so terrible. And then we have like Dr. Hugbox. He's doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, he's with a obese, tattooed single mom.
Yeah, he's doing the same thing, and he wow, primeval. And what these subconscious developed men are actually doing is that they are enabling cuckoldry. They are enabling widespread cuckoldry. If they weren't acting this way, cuckoldry would not be widespread. Women would not be initiating divorce at the level they are. They would not be willfully choosing to be single mothers. The problem is still, at the end of the day, with the men. And what's interesting about this is that from the subconscious developed male's perspective, these step-simps perspective, it is easier for them to steal another man's relationship investment and equity, so he does not actually have to perform his male burden of performance. And then because they're doing that, they start virtue signaling. They end up looking good, they feel good about themselves, and then they start virtue signaling their degeneracy to everyone else. And what's even more disgusting is that the church actually supports them in this. More specifically, the Orthodox Church does this regularly. I was actually watching a video of an Orthodox priest where he is admitting that the Orthodox Church is allowing these women who have initiated divorce which is sinful according to Jesus, according to Matthew 19 and Mark 10. They are literally stating that it is okay for these women to end up remarrying after they have initiated divorce, and they're completely in support of it because from their perspective, we know these women are going to sin anyway, so there's less sin if they do this. And it's like, no, you're actually going against the teachings of Jesus in Matthew 19 and Mark 10 consistently. You're doing this. And then as a result of that, this is actually making things abundantly worse, a lot worse. And what people don't realize is that the Orthodox Church and many churches out there are actually perpetuating degeneracy. They're perpetuating adultery. They're perpetuating all of these things.
And they're shirking their burden of performance too. Aren't they supposed to be the safety net for these single moms?
That is exactly correct. The churches are supposed to be the safety net, and it's even terrible. You actually showed me a video about an Orthodox Christian, and it was Andrew Wilson. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have that video? Like, I'd like to play the audio for the audience right now.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to convince you of my worldview.
You won't.
I know. But the reason is not because I'm not a great orator, or I don't make good points, or I haven't said things which should be compelling to a person. But Charlie, I just think honestly you're too stupid to understand them.
So Andrew, can I sell you on my worldview?
Yes.
Your wife has 3 baby daddies and has been married twice before.
And you
you
lick sniz.
Under your religion.
You lick sniz.
What is that?
You're a fake. Don't talk about my wife, you stupid. Shut your mouth. Shut your stupid mouth.
Your wife with the 3 baby
What did
daddies?
I just say?
Wife with the 3
Sorry,
baby
doll, I'm
daddies?
sorry. Is she morally inconsequential in comparison to your ditch licking?
Do the men that you try to...
Do the women that you try
show
to...
your hatred against...
Do the women that you try
convince
to...
them that they shouldn't,
You know, Charlie, did I
pursue
bring...
women? Do they know
Charlie,
that
did
your
I bring
wife
your
is 5
family...
years older?
Did I bring any of your
You call
family...
me stupid.
Did I say anything about your
stupid.
family being stupid, Charlie?
You could.
It's
You could
because
go
I'm
for it.
better than you, Charlie.
No, it's because you're embarrassed, and
Virtue
you know
signal.
that the traditional values that you try to sell people
Okay.
on are because
Let's
you
go
are not
through
a
it.
traditional man.
Chuck, let's go through it.
You are not a traditional
Let's
man.
go through it, Chuck. Tell me what I'm doing which is immoral.
What you're doing, which is immoral.
Yeah.
I think that you have been complicit in convincing young men that...
No, my family dynamic. What am I doing? Being married to my
wife.
wife.
It's immoral.
Then why? So then.
Under my
So all
worldview,
you did.
that's perfectly
So wait,
acceptable.
Chuck. All you're doing is saying. So Chuck, shouldn't you actually be saying that Andrew? You're doing a good thing. Hang on, Charlie. I just want to make sure I got this right. Am I doing a good thing?
Am I doing a good thing?
No.
Am I
No.
doing a good thing?
Do you think your wife is a charity case?
By taking care of
Your wife
children
is
who
a charity
weren't
case.
mine? Was I
Oh
doing
my
a good
God.
thing?
Oh my God, bro. Just go ahead and remove yourself from the internet.
Yeah, remove himself from the
Yes.
internet, please. Like this is Andrew Wilson. He's the whatever podcast guy. All he does is he gets a bunch of women on his show and he blames them for feminism. He blames them for career maxing. He blames them for being hoes. He blames them for being hypergamous. These women don't have any choice. And then he goes walking around claiming Christ, claiming being the so-called Orthodox Christian. He has married a woman who has 3 other baby daddies. She has children with 3 other men, and then he has married her. He has had a child with her. But last I checked, according to Matthew 19 and Mark 10, you know, who apparently is like what would most people would consider, if you're a Christian, that's your scripture or whatever. And like, I'm sorry, but when you actually read that, men have absolutely zero right to divorce a woman under any circumstance except for sexual immorality. But when you actually read those verses, women have zero right to initiate divorce in any case. Okay? So here's the thing. She was married twice before. She, did she commit sexual immorality? You see what I'm saying? Did those men have a right to divorce her? Because under Matthew 19 and Mark 10, even if he divorces them and he had just cause to do so under porneia, under sexual immorality, basically, if he had just cause to actually do that, they are not, if they remarry, they're committing adultery, basically. So he is married to an adulteress, and as a result of that, he is committing adultery with her. according to the words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 5, in Mark 10, in Matthew 19. That is exactly what is actually happening. It is reprehensible. And he wants to walk around acting like some, big-time Orthodox Christian that everyone should listen to when he's actually perpetuating the sin, and he is being representative of the church who is also perpetuating the sin and allowing these women to remarry. This is exactly why I do not attend church, because it is prevalent everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's Orthodox, it doesn't matter if it's Catholic, it doesn't matter if it's Protestant, it does not matter. It is consistent, and it just does not stop. And it is absolutely disgusting. And then here we have him on this video walking around virtue signaling about how great he is because he married this single mom.
Yeah, when he's a living, breathing, walking example of the worst form of adultery possible.
Exactly. Like, and then he's, and biologically, he's not invested in taking care of those children. Biologically, he's not invested in those children are going to be harmed, and obviously he's going to be, sowing enmity between those children and their father.
And is he living off the safety net of, what, 3 other men?
Exactly.
Paying her child support?
Yeah, and potentially alimony. Like, how is this not an abomination before the Lord? Holy shit. How is this not an abomination? Like, who the fuck is this? Like, this is literally, like, cursed evil, okay? And, and when you actually study the anti-rape laws, according to Exodus chapter 22 and Deuteronomy chapter 22, when you actually study the anti-rape laws, like, what is rape actually about according to the Torah in the Bible? What is it actually about? And what it is all about is violation of property rights. You can also confirm this by reading Numbers chapter 30, okay? In Numbers chapter 30, you have this 4 statuses that women are given under Torah in the law of Moses, and that is the following: a woman who belongs to her father, a woman who belongs to her husband, a woman who is divorced, and a woman who is a widow. And all women fall under those 4 classifications under the law. It is only those 4 classifications. Even if she's a prostitute, she may actually belong to her father, or she may actually still belong to her husband. And we see this in the book of Hosea, okay, consistently, all right? That's just an example. So those are the 4 classifications of women, and all women fall under those 4 classifications. But the subconscious developed men, with their psychosis, their psychotic, psychosis, degenerate behavior, what they end up doing is taking advantage of these weak women, these single mothers, and then further perpetuating the adultery. When what the church should actually be doing is working with the men and working with the women and leading them towards reconciliation of their family.
No, instead the church just wants to pawn off all these women to the step-simps so that the church doesn't have to take care of them.
Exactly.
And they get to use all the church funds to go to what?
I don't know, like retreats or missionaries or some just, like, they don't want
not to helping their own community.
No. Instead,
and
they
want women in their own community.
They want to continue to perpetuate the degeneracy of society as we go, and it is absolutely terrible that this is even happening, and it happens over and over and over, and basically, like, this is where, like, you end up looking at they are in effect basically raping fellow men under the guise of marrying widows and orphans, because Jesus said true religion is taking care of widows and orphans. These single moms are not widows. I mean, maybe some of them are, but they're not.
Andrew's trying to
Where's
grift.
the investment in reconciliation? Where's the investment in encouraging women to be celibate for the sake of reconciliation? Where's the investment in going to the men and holding them accountable for their male burden of performance that was given to them in Genesis chapter 3? Cursed is the ground because of you. Okay, and it will produce thorns and thistles for you, and by the sweat of your brow and through your toil, you will eat of it for the rest of your life, and then you will die. Okay, that is the male burden of performance. But apparently these men want to go marry the single moms and take advantage of the safety net that family law has given them, take advantage of the safety net of alimony, of child support, and potentially those children, and gaining the loyalty of those children. Those children may potentially help them in their old age, who knows. All of that investment, all that relationship equity that the men have actually put into that family, and it's all, and they're just grifting off of it.
And grift off the virtue of men who actually do take care of widows, as if that's what they're doing when they're not.
Exactly.
That's what Andrew's doing.
Yeah.
Is it not virtuous that I did this? Like, no.
Is it not virtuous?
Is Rachel a widow with the 3 baby daddies? No, she's not.
She's
so
not
stop
a widow.
acting like you're doing something
She's an adulterer.
virtuous.
She's an adulteress. By definition, biblically, That's how it's doing. And the Orthodox Church is continuing to perpetuate sin in this reality over and over and over. And then all of a sudden, we have Malachi chapter 4, verses 5 and 6, which is, in the last days, before the great day of the Lord, I will send my prophet Elijah to you, and he will turn the hearts of fathers to their sons and the hearts of sons to their fathers, or else I will strike the earth with a curse of utter destruction. Okay.
Yeah, and not the hearts to step-simps.
Yeah.
It's not in there.
Like,
read your Bible, Andrew.
Yeah, well, he's Orthodox, so they really are all into apostolic succession, and
yeah, let's
the
outsource
church
our
has a
thinking
higher
to somebody
authority
else
than the Bible, than their own scriptures. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Jesus didn't even act that way, because he's criticizing the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, where he's like, oh, well, you have the Torah, you have the law of Moses, you have the prophets, yet here I am in front of you. What are you actually doing? That's the original sola scriptura of Christianity right there, the Septuagint. And Jesus is literally calling out the Pharisees and teachers of the law. Because think about it, the Pharisees and teachers of the law, they're the only ones who were learned. They're the only ones who were actually literate, basically, within their society. So they're the ones who would actually read Torah in the synagogues, basically. They'd read Torah, and they'd go out of that way, and they're the only ones who could read. And because they were the only ones who could read, they could control what they're basically teaching and have complete control of that. And that is what apostolic succession actually does with the Catholic Church, and did for many, many centuries. And that's literally the reason why Martin Luther started the Protestant Reformation, literally for this reason. And even Martin Luther admitted there's nothing biblically wrong against polygyny, for example, because he was noting that the Catholic Church and their monopoly over biblical teaching, and using their so-called authority, basically, was being used to abuse people. And it is still being used to abuse people today. Okay? And don't get me started about the Protestant church. The Protestant church is just as bad. Don't get me started. But the reality of the situation is that is where this comes from. And then people like Andrew Wilson, who are continuing to perpetuate this widespread sin, this widespread adultery, he is basically, in effect, making the negative part of the prophecy of Malachi chapter 4, verses 5 and 6, where literally the entire earth is going to get destroyed because of what he is basically teaching and being an example of. And it's absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely, I mean, I don't know about you, but I like the earth. It's nice that we have trees here. We could be on another barren wasteland of a world, but we got it pretty fucking good right now. Let's be honest. And for him, like, he's like, it's no different than Jesus claiming, like, oh, you've made my house a den of thieves. And it's like, well, that's what these men are doing. They're all about, they're thieves. These step-simps are helping themselves to the performance and equity of other men. They are absolute thieves. Thou shalt not steal. Because like I keep saying, when you commit sexual sin, you are not only violating the 10th commandment, which is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's property, including his wife and children, those types of things. You're also violating thou shalt not commit adultery. You're also violating thou shalt not steal. And if your parents taught you differently, you're also dishonoring thy mother and father. So you're violating the 5th commandment as well. Okay? So sexual sin actually violates multiple commandments simultaneously. Okay, and they're completely fine with it. And you actually brought up an example of this from a secular perspective. It was, what movie was that called?
Brothers.
Brothers.
Yeah. It's about a Marine veteran who comes home to a bunch of SDism. Well, first of all, he's in the Marines. He gets captured by the Taliban, and they torture him, and they actually make him kill one of his fellow Marines to escape. They tell him, like, you have to kill him or else we'll kill him and you. So he gets PTSD from that. He comes back and
he kills the guy.
Yeah, he kills the guy, and he comes back and he's declared a war hero, even though he's like, I'm not a hero, I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But everyone thinks that he's a hero. So he's got PTSD from that. He comes back to his wife cheating on him with his brother, and they thought he was dead.
Yeah.
So somehow it's justified because of that with his own brother. Gross. So the whole movie is about him coming back UD after being probably SD when he went out to get deployed. He comes back. PTSD, he's UD. He comes back to his SD cheating wife and his SD brother trying to be the strong, silent type as well in that movie.
Yeah.
He's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, he's more masculine because he doesn't, freak out and have these crash outs like Mr. PTSD over here. So the whole movie's like framing him as the good guy, the woman's the victim, and then this war hero who actually was tortured and got PTSD, he's framed as the villain even though he's totally justified in the entire movie. Except for what he does is he takes the woman back.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he's not justified.
Didn't his daughter say something in the film?
Yeah, his daughter at the dinner table. She's like, she said that she wished he stayed dead because they all thought he was dead in Afghanistan when he came back at the dinner table, and then she said that you're just mad that Uncle Tommy is the one having sex with Mom.
Yeah.
And then he completely flips out. He destroys everything in the kitchen. And they make him out to be like this unhinged crazy man. Well, he kind of is, but he's totally justified. He doesn't actually commit violence or anything. But yeah, the whole movie is just highlighting kind of the episode you did on the C.S. Joseph channel, the UD men coming back from war and finding themselves incompatible with society, which is responsible for their high rates of depression and suicide.
Yeah.
That's why, because they come back to the scandalous behavior of the SD men with the SD women.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, this is where we start getting into what I would call the biblical definition of rape, right? Which is basically fornication. Fornication, which is extramarital sex outside of marriage, doesn't and non-committal sex. Basically, this basically is actually the definition of rape, and I believe that all forms of sex that actually fall under the category of fornication is actually a form of rape. And I believe Exodus chapter 22 and Deuteronomy chapter 22 back me up when I'm making that claim, because like we had talked about, like, how do you rape a man? How do you rape a man? Well, you rape a man through cuckoldry. It's actually
through stealing the relationship equity.
Yeah, that's how you rape a man.
And his children.
Because in my opinion, biblically, the true definition of rape is actually the damage that is actually done to the men, while simultaneously the damage that is happening to women, it's damaging both. And for some reason in this culture, when we consider rape, it's like it's only happening to the women, when in reality, biblically, it's actually happening to the men. And they don't understand that. So fornication, even towards women, fornication is technically, biblically, definitionally, rape. It really is.
So the feminists kind of had a point when they said all men are rapists.
Yeah, exactly.
Except that's an exaggeration. It's more like 99% of them.
Yeah, my grandfather taught that to his sons, especially my elder uncle, and my elder uncle had a huge problem with that. But like biblically, he's correct. Biblically, he's correct. And we're actually going to go in through those specific verses later in the show to actually demonstrate that. But what this ends up creating is that, this creates widespread idolatry. Idolatry is basically monkey branching between your idol being your safety net within society, and putting society above God instead of relying on God as your safety net as a man, and working hard to be a safety net for your family.
That's also men acting effeminately because they're adopting the female reproductive strategy of hypergamy as a man.
Yes.
By monkey branching and being hypergamous with their safety nets.
Yes. And what they do is that when they use up one woman, when she's no longer the safety net, they'll go to another woman that's a better safety net. It's so disgusting.
With no consequence, too, especially if they don't have another kid like Andrew Wilson did.
No consequence.
They could just move on and not have to pay child support because the other man, who's the actual father, is still doing it.
And it leads to a matriarchy. And then all of a sudden, Rollo Tomassi is whining about gynocentrism and the feminine primary social order. And it's like, dude, you created it.
Yeah, and then they also whine about women wanting all the benefits of something but none of the responsibility. How exactly is that any different than what these step-simps are doing?
Yeah.
They want all the benefits of being a father without any of the responsibility because they can leave at any time.
Yes.
And they're being provided for by the man who was the actual father in the form of child support and alimony that they're living off of while they pretend like they're the sibling of the child and play video games with another man's kid in that woman's house.
Sowing enmity between the children and their father at the same time, which is also terrible. So basically, step-simps are ruining children. They're sowing enmity with the children's fathers. They often are acting entitled, and they're so entitled that they are entitled to actually the bodies of children that are not theirs, just as they are entitled to the body of their mothers. And we see this consistently because statistically, when you look at pedophilia, who are the men committing pedophilia the most? Oh, that's right, the stepfathers.
Yeah, or priests and pastors, who are also part of the problem, as we discussed, enabling this.
Yes.
Like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, because this is one of the reasons why I maintain the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church is entirely invalid. If they follow Pauline doctrine, which is 1 Timothy chapter 3, basically, they're making the claim that, and 1 Timothy chapter 3 says you have to be married to your first wife. They make the argument that, oh, no, it's not, they have to be celibate. And it's like, no, because when you have a priest or a pastor and they're giving relationship advice about marriage and they themselves are not married, like, what the fuck is even going on there? Like, that's bullshit. But that happens consistently in the Catholic and Orthodox Church. They are entirely invalid, even by their own Pauline doctrine that they follow in 1 Timothy. It literally says right there, married to your first wife, which means that he never actually had a divorce, okay? Which means that he has higher credibility to be in that position because he never had a divorce, because clearly, marriage and sexuality is such a problem in the church anyway, and clearly you would want somebody who has never been divorced before to actually be able to take on that position and give advice to people who are either about to get married or who are married or who need help reconciling after a divorce. You see what I'm saying? But apparently we can't have that in the church.
No, let's just have a priest who's either a virgin or a homosexual who uses the church as his safety net to disguise that fact. Because he can be like, oh, well, the reason I'm not married is not because I'm gay. It's because I'm a priest, I'm not allowed to get
Yeah.
married. And then we wonder where all this abuse comes from.
Yeah.
And then these same priests are the one giving marital advice when they have no experience in that realm.
No experience. It's so disgusting.
And they're always siding with the women.
This is why I don't go to church, dude. Like this is why in general I recommend that men avoid going to church, because if they like go to a church and if they're acting like this, get the fuck out.
And it will keep them SD the longer they
yes,
stay
it
in
will.
this environment.
Yes, absolutely it will. You know, and family law ends up creating orphans, technically, because their fathers aren't around, even though it's not like the actual biblical definition of orphans, but it's like orphanry. And it enables male and female shirking of their burdens of performance. What is the female burden of performance? It's actually submission. That is the female burden of performance, submitting to a man, right? So they're actually enabling women to not have to submit and further perpetuating their hypergamy.
Being harmonious at all times, either
yeah.
UDP or SDP.
Yeah. And
If you don't know what that is, school.com/CS Joseph.
Yeah.
And go through season 41, 42, and 40.
Yeah, 40, part 2, 41, and 42. Yes, all of those. And it's just the female shirking burden of performance. The female burden of performance in the Bible is Genesis chapter 3, verse 16, which is, your desire will be contrary to your husband, but he will still rule over you. Okay?
And you're telling me also that, didn't they remove part of the Bible? Some of these translations?
They did.
Removed...
It was actually that verse. They actually, in that verse, they got rid of the word contrary. And then they said, your desire will be for your husband, and yet he will still rule over you. That is completely false. The word contrary is in there. And it's like, because it's like, you've been set against your husband, but he will still rule over you. You still have the burden to submit to him anyway. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the church is so feminist that they removed that verse, or that word from the verse.
Yeah, they did.
And you can't even say, oh, well, it's just the translation. Like, no, that totally changes the meaning when you remove that word. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Like what the fuck are these people doing? So as a result, I have no choice but to conclude that stepfathers are the pinnacle of degeneracy in society. I mean, they're basically rapists, because they are raping men, and they are, and then if they're
adulterers and the enablers of bad female behavior towards the actual fathers of their children.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, Jesus is really clear about this shit, because you have true religions taking care of widows and orphans, but they actually have to be widows. And yet fucking Andrew Wilson.
And it's the church's job to do that, not some other step-simp that comes along. But the church is happy because they're shirking their burden of performance too.
Exactly.
To pawn that off onto another man and then act like they're not doing anything wrong. Yes.
Wow.
So that they don't have to do it themselves, because they are also trying to do as little as possible.
Yeah. While entirely ignoring
because
Matthew
they're
19,
SD as
Mark
well.
10. Yes, and Matthew 5. They're entirely ignoring this. They claim Christ, they claim the Gospels, but they're hypocrites. They don't know actually what they're talking about. It is complete bullshit. And the church society is supposed to be the safety net for single moms, as well as helping the men not shirk their burden of performance, helping the single mom, if they find out the single mom became a single mom because she was shirking her burden of performance, with lack of submission. That is another issue in of its own right. But still, in general, it's hard for a woman to be willing to submit to a man who is a subconscious developed cuck. Let's be honest. It's just not gonna. It's very, very difficult for them. But that doesn't mean they're.
And everyone knows that too. That's why Pearl Davis, when she does these interviews outside churches, with
Pearl
like the
Davis.
pastors,
Yeah,
she'll ask them a question, something like a lowball, like very easy question
Should
for them
a
to
wife
answer.
submit to her husband?
And none of the pastors are able to say yes to that. And
They
part of it
really
is
look
maybe
at
they
losers.
know that the SD men are not worthy of being submitted to, but even within the religion that's
their
supposed to say
pocketbooks
yes to
will
that
get
question, they
lined
still
as
can't
they're
admit.
sitting there with their dad bods. Come on.
Yeah,
Like,
they can't even answer that question. Should be the
they
easiest
can't.
question in the world to answer.
How can these churches claim to be churches when they're in clear violation of Matthew 5, Mark 10, and Matthew 19? I just don't understand. I literally don't get it. And because of this, they're allowing SD men who are not safety nets and hypergenously use other men's equity for their own safety net. And then once they use up that safety net, they move on to another one and another one and another one. And it just ends up like churches allowing this are evil. Okay. And in my opinion, men in general must learn to protect their equity and work together to change laws and end this evil in the land, both in church and in court. These churches are apostate. It is absolutely terrible. It is apostate. And I literally just cannot deal with it. And it's just like, oh my God, like what the fuck are they even doing? But, we've been talking a little bit about rape, so let's actually go into the biblical definition of rape real quick. Let's actually do it, because I actually have, some themes extracted from the verses right here. So, for example, if a man seduces, and this is an anti-rape law, if a man seduces a virgin but is not betrothed to her, he must marry her, or the father can refuse that, but that man still must pay for the woman. Like literally. Okay, so that's the first one. Here's another one. There's the death penalty for men who are having sex with the wives of other men, and that also includes the women. There's the death penalty for that. That's pretty harsh. Okay. Here's another one. If you rape a betrothed woman, in the city, death penalty. Death penalty for that. And then if it happens in open country with a betrothed woman and he rapes that woman who is betrothed, she's let off the hook because it's the same thing, according to the Bible, attacking and murdering his neighbor, basically. So the Bible is literally putting rape at the same level as attacking one's neighbor and murdering him. Literally. That's what happens. Okay, this is in Exodus. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 22. You could go read it yourself.
It's in the Torah. Stealing too.
Yeah, and it is stealing. Yes. But here's another one. If a man rapes a virgin who is not betrothed, guess what? She has to be his wife. And this is what we talked about previously. With like women, for example, having these rape fantasies, basically, because the problem is that rape is such a very big problem for their apex of hypergamy, biologically speaking, that it imprints the man onto the woman, and that is permanent. And oftentimes you hear about women, you see it all the time on Twitter especially, romanticizing and fantasizing about their rapist, basically.
Yeah, and then these red pill guys will use that to shit on those women.
Yeah.
And then also as a justification for them to spin plates.
But it's biological. And in that case, it's like, because here's the thing, like, oh, dang, this guy rapes a virgin, then all of a sudden, boom, he has to take care of her. He has to, like, take the responsibility of making her wife. And the men are like, okay, I don't want to have that responsibility, so I'm not doing it.
And then it creates less rape because they don't want to be held to that standard.
Yes. And this is all fornication. This is definitionally, all of this is fornication. This is why I'm making the argument that fornication equals rape. Okay? Fornication equals rape. This is all fornication. And then here's another one. If you're a slave owner and you have a man who is your slave and he also has a wife and children, basically, and the man earns his freedom, he can leave, but his wife and children have to stay with you. Or he can choose to remain as a slave under your household. Do you know why? Because you as the slave owner are making sure that they're all being fed and taken care of and have heat and all this thing. And the point is that biblically, God is making sure that men's investment in women and children or in others is protected and is due compensation.
Yeah, even slave owners have more male burden of responsibility than these SD cucks.
Exactly. But these men are not doing that. So as a result, we can conclude that God is protecting male investment consistently. Okay, and this is exemplified in Numbers 30. This is exemplified in Exodus 22, Deuteronomy 22, Mark 10, Matthew 19, Matthew chapter 5. That's literally how it is. And then oftentimes, people are listening to this, they'd be listening to the show, they'd have a negative reaction, and they'd be like, well, what about redemption? Is there even redemption for single mothers? And it's like, well, if they made a marriage covenant with a man, and he divorced her for sexual immorality, he can do whatever he wants, and she basically, in my opinion, needs to remain celibate, and it is what it is. Like, she's got to remain celibate or work hard to reconcile with him.
That's not what Rachel Wilson did.
Because he can forgive her. It's not. And he can forgive her for the sexual immorality, and he can take her back. She should be all about reconciliation, right? Or here's another way. If he divorces her for no reason, well, technically under the law, she should be okay to remarry, and that would be okay if he had no reason to actually divorce her, based on what Jesus says in Matthew 19 and Mark 10, essentially, from that perspective. And then, in Numbers 30, like, it's like, okay, well, do you belong to your father still? You were fornicating, so basically you were allowing yourself, or maybe you weren't allowing yourself to be raped, basically. Because what the Bible is basically saying is that even if a woman consents, she's being raped. Even if she consents. The Bible treats it that way. That is insane when you think about it, okay? And so what's your status as a woman? Are you a divorced woman? Are you actually a widow? Like, if you're a widow, you can be redeemed and you can get married. Are you a divorced woman? Well, why were you divorced? Were you divorced because you engaged in sexual immorality? Well, then you should be celibate and then work with the church to get reconciled with your man, and hopefully he'll forgive you. Okay, that would be one thing. Okay, but if you're married, oh well, if you're married, it doesn't matter. Oh, do you belong to your father still? And then you're a single mom because you got pregnant by someone in high school and you're still belonging to your father. In that situation, sure. You could marry in that situation, and it wouldn't be considered adultery.
Again, also not Rachel Wilson.
Yeah,
no,
also
no
not
excuse.
Rachel Wilson. Yeah, exactly.
No excuse, Andrew.
Yeah.
You're an adulterer.
But in general, like in my recommendation, don't marry single moms. I mean, even your secular perspective about, pregnancy means marriage, right?
Yeah, it's like you were saying with the lions. It's like biological.
Yeah.
It's like instinctually, men do not want to take care of a child that's not theirs.
They
You don't need religion to tell you that, but religion will also tell you that, on top of biology.
Yeah, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, and it further perpetuates the problems. And like stepfathers being rapists, women can, if they're having extramarital sex, they're being raped, consent or not. Like these are some hard teachings, but this is the truth. Like, and if we're going to actually stop the degeneracy and the sin in the land, if we're actually going to actually improve our society and not have it collapse, if we're actually going to keep the earth instead of having God give a curse of utter destruction upon the earth, because clearly this is preventing fathers' hearts being turned towards their children. This is preventing children from having their hearts turned towards their fathers, because these stepfathers are literally creating enmity between both those parties anyway, as they're basically grifting and using these very vulnerable women
And children.
Yeah.
That aren't theirs.
Yeah. And then likely even, and also statistically more likely to commit pedophilia. Like what the hell is going on? Like it's pretty fucking obvious. Okay.
Yeah, and then they want to be seen like Andrew, like they're doing a great thing, when it's not a widow situation.
What?
Grifting off of something that's actually honorable in exchange for something that's extremely dishonorable.
I dare to say he is apostate. He is not acting like a Christian. He needs to get his heart right with God. He needs to repent immediately. And honestly, Rachel Wilson needs to repent and actually go back to the man that she first belonged to.
She has no place going. She goes on whatever podcast with Andrew, and she'll be debating these OnlyFans bimbos as if she's like the virtuous one. It's like, no, a lot of these OnlyFans bimbos are actually more virtuous than Rachel Wilson.
Yeah. It's just, it's so ridiculous. And these churches, these Orthodox churches, these Catholic churches, using their apostolic succession excuse to claim that they have higher authority than the Scripture, when even Jesus didn't go that far. Like in the context of him telling the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, it's like, hey, you have the prophets, you have the Torah, you have the law of Moses, you have these things, okay, and here I am. It's like are you out of your mind? Like, what the hell? Like, no, Andrew Wilson has no leg to stand on. And he is consistently perpetuating sin. He is consistently perpetuating adultery. He is an adulterer. He is married to an adulteress, and he's literally being an example for other people in the process. And they're all acting this way, and it is absolutely disgusting. Like the Whatever podcast is causing so much damage, and all these red pill grifters are causing so much damage, but especially him. He is the example of what the worst is in society. He is the most. Yeah,
when a lesbian feminist can dunk on you like that on the clip we paid.
Yeah.
Then that's proof right there that, and look how angry he got too.
Yeah.
Immediately lashing out
because his whole ego is based on that investment. His whole ego is, I'm so virtuous because I'm committing adultery. You moron. Like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, what the hell? What is wrong with people? He is deceived, and he is deceiving other people. Like, it is apostate behavior. It is apostate actions. He needs to grow the fuck up. He needs to get out of this shit. Like, holy smokes. Yeah. I think I'm done. I think I've hammered it pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks for watching and listening, folks. We'll see you guys on the next episode.